Greetings, loves. It is I, Tactical Girlfriend. Welcome back to the channel. I hope everybody's doing well. Today for you, I want to talk about laser dry fire systems, specifically the Mantis X Blackbeard for rifle dry fire. This is a laser dry fire system that was developed for the AR-15, so most of you who are shooting ARs out there probably have some interest in this, and it's an extremely powerful tool in my experience. I got a lot to talk about, a lot of ideas and applications in which you can use it, and I just want to review all that for you. So, without further ado, let's get into it. And as always, for full transparency's sake, what is my relationship with Mantis? Well, there simply is none. I tried out a Blackbeard before, and I was very impressed. I wanted to get my own, and I figured I would email them and see if I could get a free sample. They obliged, and that was very nice of them. There are no other goods or funds exchanged. I have no stake in selling anything whatsoever on this channel. I am simply here to relay my experiences to you, and this was a great opportunity. So let's start talking about the details here. Now, what makes the Blackbeard so special? Well, it's a laser dry fire system. Yeah, there is obviously all sorts of cartridges out there that can accomplish the same task for one trigger pull. The thing about this thing is that you can just keep pulling that trigger and it actually mechanically resets your trigger every single time. So you actually get a good feel for your trigger, and you also can just fire away with that laser as much as you like. So you can get multiple hits on targets, you can work on your transitions, you can work on more dynamic drills more easily. Everything around that is what really sets this thing apart. Now, there is a cold fire system that uses gas to actually actuate your gun's action, and that's really cool too. But the Blackbeard specifically for the AR is a really unique product. It's also extremely economical, obviously, because what's better than not shooting live ammo, shooting no ammo, and still getting a lot of gains out of it by using those metrics that this provides. Speaking of which, this can be used with two different apps that Mantis makes. First of all, the Mantis X, in which the computer inside the little battery pack that is shaped like a magazine actually tracks all of your movement while you're pulling that trigger, and it gives you some really useful metrics. Furthermore, you can also pair this with the Mantis Academy app, so you can work on your marksmanship and use a whole slew of targets that they can provide, or your own. So honestly, this is a really fun and engaging tool. It really keeps me motivated in my dry fire, and it keeps it really interesting, and it just makes it easier too. There's a lot more that I can do with this than any laser cartridge. So that's a huge, huge point in its favor, and I really do think that this is a unique product that stands on its own. Now, we all know that dry fire is extremely crucial if you are serious about honing your firearms skills. There's things like laser cartridges out there, and those are really nice to have. I do think that everybody should own laser cartridges for their guns to use for dry fire, but obviously this is just a huge upgrade in that regard, due to the nature of the metrics that you get from it, as well as the ability to auto-reset your trigger every time you pull it. Beyond that, just having a system like this is a one-time buy thing usually. You use it until it breaks or until you break, and it really keeps you engaged. It doesn't require you to go to the range, it doesn't require you to spend a bunch of money and time getting to the range, it doesn't require you to spend range fees, it doesn't require you to buy ammo, and you can do most of the things that you'd be doing at the range anyway with this. It's really motivational, it's really engaging, and it kind of turns a lot of these exercises and drills into a game. And that's extremely important, I think, if you are trying to be serious about staying in the game and keeping yourself engaged with your dry fire regimen. So what do you get with the Blackbeard? Well, for one, you get this really nice case. Inside of it, you have your laser here, which is inside this bolt carrier group / charging handle thing. And then you get a magazine, which is essentially your power source, has a battery life indicator, charging port for your USB right there, and then you get a button here that activates the Bluetooth, which tracks your results and sends that to your smartphone for the Mantis X app. You also get manuals, of course, and paperwork. You get a charging cable, and you also get an adjustment Allen wrench, and specifically this adjusts the elevation and windage of the laser. That way it's not bouncing around inside your barrel and obfuscating the actual laser sight. As far as installation goes, it's an absolute breeze. Simply pop your rear takedown pin, lift up, and then take your bolt carrier group Try not to get everything dirty here. And then you just take the Mantis system, slide it on in, and then close. Boom, you're ready to go. Then simply take the magazine, obviously, load that. You'll notice that the laser actually does discharge and the trigger does reset when you first insert it. That's perfectly normal. You are ready to go. One other thing to note, this does retail for about $319 street price. This is the Blackbeard X with the tracking computer inside the battery pack. Now, the normal Mantis Blackbeard does not have that feature. It is simply just a battery in the magazine. You can buy those magazines. You can get more of these if you want. And in fact, if you have the base model, you can get the upgraded magazine separately, so you don't nearly break the bank getting a whole system over again if you already got the laser. The laser between the two systems is still the same. All right, let's talk about the Mantis Academy app. This app is extremely powerful. There's a ton of different drills and scenarios that you can run through here. The really cool thing about this app is that you have a ton of options as far as targets go. Furthermore, you also can print them out if you choose for free, or you can buy them on really nice cardstock from Mantis. You can mix and match these targets. You can put up as many as you can possibly fit on your wall if you want to, and you can use the app, and the app is extremely intelligent. The way it works is that it uses these little QR codes in the corner of every target to identify what target you're using, and therefore also allow you to identify the hit boxes automatically and score you properly as you fire. This is an extremely powerful tool combined with various targets that you can use, various drills. There are so many drills in this app. It's kind of silly. A lot of these I don't really find that useful, but honestly, the world's your oyster here. You can really do a lot. Furthermore, you can also simply use your own targets, and you can set custom hitboxes and do whatever you want with that kind of program. There's all sorts of possibilities. The Mantis Academy app is extremely versatile, and furthermore, it also allows you to track different kinds of weapons. You can keep your history in here. There's all sorts of really cool things that you can do with this. So honestly, really powerful app. Combine that with a dry fire training system such as the Blackbeard, or even honestly a laser cartridge, you can do a ton. Okay, so I'm gonna just do a really simple demonstration. I'm gonna do a shot from guard, low, ready, multi-rep drill. And this is just one shot on target on the buzzer. Nothing complicated here. Gonna go to my settings here first. Gonna change the reset time to a little bit less. Keep me on my toes here. 5 reps total. Countdown time 3 seconds. Cool. Okay, shoot to calibrate. I'm gonna go ahead and calibrate my gun first. And that basically saves your offset. So now my offset is saved. This is for if you don't want to count for offset, you just want to get the reps in and really get your accuracy tracked properly. Okay, so now let's go and start the drill. Got my offset calibrated. I'm gonna go from low ready. A little high on that one. There we go. And then I got a breakdown of all my times, my score, 9 being the highest. Obviously this is offset shooting. It's calibrated for that offset, so I am going for the A zone box. My optic is on that A zone. Now the laser obviously is much lower. This compensates for that, which is really nice if that's what you're going for. Okay, so what I'd like to do here is a drill with 3 shots on each target, transitioning from left to right. Now, I'm going to load up the multiple shots on multiple targets drill, and then I'm going to go ahead and just check my settings here really quick. And let me clear my offset. So here I'm going to actually account for my offset personally, manually, so to speak. Okay, 6 shots, 3 on each, left to right, low ready, let's go. Missed one of those, went into a Charlie, but otherwise, pretty good run. That gives you a pretty good demonstration of using multiple targets here, and also just generally making sure that your offsets are good and your groups are nice and tight. All right, now let's talk about the Mantis X side of things. The Blackbeard X has a little button on the side of the battery there that you just press, and that gets you connected to your phone. From there, you can simply select from a number of drills in the app. I'm gonna go and just go the classic shot timer, and you'll notice that in here, there's actually no camera. You don't use your camera, you simply use a really sensitive accelerometer in your Mantis X Blackbeard. This tracks how you're pulling your trigger and where your muzzle is sweeping, and it gives you relative data to demonstrate how you're pulling that trigger and how steady you're holding your gun as you pull it. That's kind of the main point of this app. So we're gonna go and get started here. I'm gonna just simply start with one target here, and I'm just gonna try to see how tight of a group I can get for 3 shots. That's pretty terrible, but this will show me where I went wrong. If I go to my score here, it shows kind of where relative to my center of aim everything was. And from here we can see that the trigger press movement and the hold movement is measured. It shows you a pretty good breakdown of how that all went. It also tries to help you diagnose if you're using a handgun to help you overcome whatever shortcomings you're running into. I generally would kind of disregard that information. I think that even though the app does provide a lot of good information, I think it's kind of jumping the gun, pun intended, to diagnose without actually having a little bit more data than what you have here. Regardless, the data itself, I think, is extremely useful. Also, you can track each shot as you pull that trigger. It'll show you where your muzzle sweep was going and where it landed. That's extremely useful. What's really cool is I can also go to my real-time tracking window here. This just shows how steady I'm holding that gun. Notice that as I hold it steady, it doesn't move around very much. I can sweep it around like crazy, but let's just go ahead and just do some ready ups. 3 shots. This gives you real-time tracking. It can be really useful if somebody is trying to watch what you're doing and help you diagnose. This is a really useful screen, honestly. Okay, from here, I'm gonna do a similar drill as I was doing with the Academy app, where I'm gonna transition from multiple targets. I'm gonna go right to left this time, but still 3 hits on each, starting from low ready. Let's give it a shot, pun intended. Cool. So, as you can see, it wasn't a perfect cadence. Shot number 4 definitely shows you the transition time between targets. That's pretty cool. Again, kind of breakdown of your overall score here. And yeah, a little bit more data to help you really determine where you're going wrong in your trigger press and whether or not you're holding your gun on target properly. And then we can go through our history here, look at each shot. Looks good. That one was a little wild. That was a really nice tight one. Then I transition, and you can see your transition path, which is really cool. And yeah, going back here again, looking pretty good. So as you can see, you got a lot of really good information, also especially considering that you don't even have any accuracy metrics. This is all just simply based on the motion of your gun and your trigger pulls. It's an extremely sensitive device, and it really does a good job of breaking down where you're doing what wrong and what you're doing right. All right, let's try something else. Let's go ahead and go to the par timer. I'm gonna set that to 0.7 seconds. And this is gonna be just enough time for me to do some low ready reps. Just gonna do some ready ups from low ready. Gonna do a set of 5 and see how this goes. And those are my 5 shots. get your score for your fastest one at 0.37 here. You know, averaging out to be pretty even keel around 0.4 seconds. That's kind of my best time here for most low ready drills. And yeah, that's a great demonstration of another really useful feature in this app. Now, beyond all the app usage, there's so much more that you can do with this, and you can get really creative with it. One of my favorite applications of the Mantis X Blackbeard is CQB training, and specifically team CQB training. For one, obviously, it's really cool to go running around indoors and be shooting lasers left and right, and you can actually turn that into some really engaging dynamic drills. But it's really especially useful when you're working with other people doing that kind of stuff, because it's all red plastic between the bolt and the magazine. You can immediately tell if a gun is clear. If your team, everybody that you're working with has these set up and you're ready to go, you're gonna know it. And furthermore, the more lasers you have, the more fun it is. It gets to be a really useful tool for team tactics and anything like that. So I really like that application. You can also use this in combination with a laser dry fire cartridge for your handgun. Now, what does your handgun have to do with any of this? Well, if you want to practice transition drills, it's really nice to have the Mantis X Blackbeard so that you can fire off multiple shots on target with your AR and then transition your pistol with one shot. Admittedly, that's not ideal. Admittedly, there would be another system like this for handguns, but you could use your cold fire system if you got that. But otherwise, it's still fine. It does demonstrate the principle of a transition, and firing off multiple shots on target, transition to handgun, one shot on target, still generally is going to give you pretty good feedback for your transition drills. Now, you don't need to use the apps with this at all. You can switch to dummy mode, as I like to call it. You can get reflective tape, paste some pieces up and target those. You'll get instant feedback. You'll know right away when you hit it because it'll illuminate and bloom pretty brightly. And that's really easy to do with this system. Furthermore, if you want to, you can incorporate a shot timer, set a par time, just run your drills under certain par times and make sure you're getting everything in under the clock. Furthermore, you can use this to learn your holds at close range. Because it's a laser dry fire system, it shoots a laser straight out of your barrel, and while it doesn't actually have a parabolic ballistic path, because those things don't really factor in until you get into longer ranges, you will quickly notice what your offset is between your optic and your barrel. That is extremely important if you are doing any close range training, any CQB, whatever you want to call it. It's extremely useful to learn those holds at close range, and this demonstrates that very quickly. It's also really important to practice your reloads. This is one thing that the Mantis X Blackbeard cannot do. Unless you buy an extra battery pack for some weird reason, but that's very unnecessary. Honestly, take your bolt out, get some real mags, practice with them. I prefer to actually have my AR floating above my laundry basket so that when I'm practicing my reloads, my mags don't go clattering all over the floor and they're nicely contained. Pro tip. But anyway, yeah, that is one thing the Blackbeard will not help you with, but that's okay. It's like literally the only thing it doesn't really do well. No, the Blackbeard is not a perfect system by any means. I do have a couple of gripes, but there's really not many. For one, I do think the battery is kind of the weak point of this whole system, honestly. It takes forever to charge, and it doesn't hold charge for very long, so you have to constantly keep charging it. And further, the battery bleeds off energy like crazy. It doesn't need to be attached to anything for it to eventually just lose charge. So that is annoying. You just gotta be a bit more proactive and make sure that you're keeping it charged before your sessions. Not a big deal, but it is something that I do think is worth mentioning. Another thing I've noticed is that the Mantis Academy app is, of course, completely dependent on your phone's camera, but with that subjectivity does come some things that I noticed on my end, at least. I have a very up-to-date phone, but regardless, sometimes the app would struggle to recognize targets. It was because the room was kind of dim. Even with sunlight coming into the room, just not directly on the target, it would still cause issues in recognizing the target. That was a little frustrating. Just something to note, make sure that your room is very well lit. Ultimately, the Mantis X Blackbeard is an extremely powerful dry fire tool. Is it the be-all end-all in your dry fire arsenal? Of course not. You should be able to do effective dry fire for free with no gizmos or tools whatsoever other than your gun. But it is a really nice enhancement. It really opens the doors for the things you can do in dry fire. It really gives you some good metrics to work with and to learn from. And it's really fun and engaging. And I do think all of those things make it absolutely worth it. Is it worth it to you? I don't know. I'll let you decide. Obviously, make your priorities. Make sure that they're straight. Don't put the horse before the cart here, but if you got the money and you feel pretty happy with your setup, I would absolutely try to grab one of these and at least try it out. I've never heard of anyone really hating on these. Everyone seems to really love them, and for what it's worth, I really love mine. I've been using mine a ton, and I'm going to keep doing it. Well, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell too. Also, if you have your experiences with the Blackbeard or other laser dry fire systems that you'd like to talk about, I'd love to hear more about in the comments below, so feel free to chime in. I also want to give a huge shout out to all my Patreon supporters. This is basically a one-girl show, and I really couldn't do any of this without you. I really appreciate everybody who is supporting me out there, and you all are keeping the lights on. I really couldn't do any of this without you. So if you do want to go help chip in, you can always go to patreon.com/tacticalgf. The biggest contributors are named at the end of the video. And that's all the lasers I've got for you today. I really appreciate you all tuning in. Please be good to each other out there. And as always, please take care. Bye!